many as I was able to meet with. So again, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to the public comment portion of our meeting. And this was I want to just formally welcome our guests, board of directors, teachers, staff, and the student advisory council. So thank you all for being here. And parents and DCP community members. So there are 3 ways that the public can address the board. One is via Zoom, and we have a Zoom connection with designated locations. The second is via email, and the third is in person. And in person, we will be working off of the blue card. So if you do want to comment verbally in person, a blue card would need to be completed. Given the number of comments, it's my responsibility to manage our time so that as many people can, let me stand up so everybody can see. So as many people as possible can voice. Voices are important. Thank you so much for being here and your willingness to express what's on your mind. So I'm going to, right now, based on the number of folks that I see, and I don't know the volume of emails nor Zoom, so once we get into that, I might adjust. But right now, I'm going to estimate about no more than 2 minutes per person. And you do have someone keeping track of time, so I just ask that you, when it's your time to speak, that you are respectful of that time so that we can allow others to share what's on their mind as well. Okay? Great. Thank you. So let's start with the Zoom connection. Are there any comments via Zoom?
No comments for El Camino Middle School.
All schools are on, so we'll wait too.
Alum Rock Middle School?
None for Alum Rock Middle School.
Saying none for Alberta High School.
Alum Rock High School? Miss Pearl, can you text Darcie?
Okay. Our next channel of receiving messages is via email.
Okay, we have one from Hernandez. Why DCP should shut down? No boy, not for years. And then another one from Hernandez. Why DCP should not shut down? Because I want to graduate here, and I also like Mr. Osorio. We have another one from Diaz. Cierra de Escuela DCP Alum Rock High School. And this one's in Spanish. I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll translate it. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Erika y actualmente tengo 2 estudiantes atendiendo en la escuela preparatoria DCP Alum Rock High School. Y me da mucho coraje saber que van a cerrar nuestra escuela y no se nos dio la oportunidad de poder hacer algo para ayudar a atraer más estudiantes y así evitar el cierre. Y lo que más me indigna es el darme cuenta de el daño que les están causando a todos los estudiantes y especialmente a mis hijos. No puedo creer que nuestra escuela, que tanto nos permitió, ahora nos está fallando y nos hace sentir que nuestra voz no tiene importancia y que nuestra comunidad tan hermosa que formamos se va a desaparecer. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Erica, and I currently have 2 students attending DCP Alum Rock High School. And it makes me very angry to know that they are going to close our school and we were not given the opportunity to do something to help attract more students and thus avoid closure. And what angers me most is realizing the damage they are causing to all students and especially to my children. I cannot believe that our school that promised us so much is now failing us and making us feel that our voice is not important and that our beautiful community that we form is going to disappear. Another one from Angelica Flores, high school closing. My name is Angelica Flores, mother of 3 students at DCP Alum Rock. My older son is an 11th grade student. Next year will be his high school last and more important year. My other son is in 8th grade next year and will be a freshman next year. My family has been affected so much for this decision and need to be reconsidered. From Jessica Hall. Jessie Hall. To the Downtown College Prep Board of Directors. I am deeply concerned about this sudden, abrupt, and consequential decision to propose the reduction of grades served by the Alum Rock Charter and closure of an entire school site. The damaging effect on the San Jose community, especially an already underserved community within the city, is heavy. As someone who grew up in the east side of San Jose, I know how much the area has struggled to provide enrichment and opportunity. The closure of a school with a values-based community environment and specific valuable programs like folklorico, filmmaking, and computer science is a palpable loss, breaks a community to our mission, and tarnishes our name and standing. More pressing is the dramatic and life-altering destruction of students, families, and staff currently at ours. Enrolling students creates a commitment through graduation. Breaking that commitment sends a message to families and students that we are giving up on them, that they are not worth serving, and that their needs come second to economic and pragmatic decisions of others. The teachers and staff who serve this community are also given the impossible task of inspiring students through a seemingly hopeless situation. Teachers and staff choose to work at ours and serve that community for specific and meaningful reasons. The effect of the closure is not simply the enormous stress of getting another job, but also disrespecting and dishonoring the work, value, and pride of the staff who have striven to achieve DCP's mission. I understand there may be unavoidable things in motion, but I implore you to explore solutions and options with dignity and respect for everyone. Please keep all these things in mind as you make your decision. Thank you. Another from Eric. Dear Board of Directors, I teach physics, computer science, and music at DCP Alum Rock High School. I am sad for our community to be facing the loss of our sister high school. I know that DCP is facing financial challenges. To my untrained eye, it looks like the money is there, though it won't be easy. We might have to be creative. I believe that there is enough caring and intelligence in our leadership and in this board to get us through this rough patch, while keeping all of our schools open. I am asking you to keep Alum Rock serving grades 5 through 12 while we look for solutions. Thank you for hearing my comments. From Diaz, 2007. Why wasn't this school advertised? Nobody from the high school advertised to the middle school next to a column. This is all political BS. From that same Andrea. We should have been advised in the beginning of the school year, so all the parents and staff members could have promoted the high school. I helped open the middle school and I passed around flyers around the neighborhood, visited elementary schools, and it was not done. From Brandy, Alba. Dear DCP Board, I have been a DCP for almost 8 years. I have many concerns with the leadership of my school. From my understanding, there hasn't been much of any effort done by my principal nor our CEO to increase enrollment. Additionally, the lack of urgency to notify students and their families of lack of funds prior to the official announcement raises concern on Settelmayer's ability to understand students' needs. Students and families have placed their trust in DCP's model of getting students to and through college, and this proposal of closure will negatively impact students' journey to college. If the board does not decide to move forward with this decision, there needs to be a plan for current students. How will DCP help them to continue their education? A big attraction to this school is that I help, or is the one-on-one help from the college success team. This decision will jeopardize current Alum Rock juniors. So how does DCP plan on helping them? Or help juniors who decide to depart from DCP due to lack of transportation to El Primero? Sincerely, concerned student. From Lanny's 00. My child is a senior at DCP Alum Rock High School. Her entire academic career has been difficult because of previous undiagnosed autism. With the help of her IEP teacher and the folklorico class, she has been able to overcome some personal obstacles that have been holding her back her whole life. Their support has been amazing. They have not only supported her in her schoolwork, but they have helped her challenge herself in a way that even she thought was not possible. If she did not attend DCP Alum Rock High School, we do not believe she would have gotten the help she needed. We are very grateful for their continued support. There's no telling how many other kids from the neighborhood this team may be able to help in the future. From Tania, Eaton. Esteemed board members, I am writing on behalf of the students and families at ours to ask that we please explore every other possible scenario before making a decision to close the school. In addition to failing to follow through with our commitments to the students, families, and staff that committed to DCP. This decision to announce recommendation for closure has taken away our ability to fight for one of our own. We speak a lot at DCP about community, and yet we were not given the opportunity to come together and do all that we could do to increase enrollment. There seems to be a lack of clarity and transparency with the steps that led to this decision, which leaves employees feeling unsettled and could impact staff decision to leave a wonderful organization. Please give our students, families, and staff a chance. Public comment from Sarah Najar. To the board and members of DCP community, I am entering comments for the record to implore this board to make the right decision in keeping Alum Rock High School grades level 9 through 12 open and operating. By closing the school, you are causing great harm to a community which has relied on us to ensure all first-generation students have a pathway to college. You are stripping our colleagues and staff of job placement. If this board shuts down a school, you will be going against everything DCP has stood for all these years, as well as the message we and you have sent out to the community. You will be stripping children of equitable access to education and using low enrollment and deficit of debt to allow this travesty. I am imploring this board to uphold your commitment to DCP values and keep our school open. This should never been sprung on our students and families in this manner. If this were an area of concern, why wasn't this found 2 years ago instead of now? School budgets are made in advance. It is unethical and irresponsible for a closure to be this sudden. Save ours, put our community first.
trans, we have one translator. So,
That's okay.
is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, so we're gonna start now, we'll go to our in-person comments, and we have the forms, and when we call, the person's name, you're welcome to come forward or stand up, whatever, you're most comfortable with. And you'll, and this will be timed for each speaker will have 2 minutes maximum. And I also want to mention that the board is listening and considering all the messages, all the voices, all the comments that we're hearing. We cannot respond to them in each one, so I just want to put that out, explain that, so that we're not giving a response to each one, we cannot do so. Madison, Sumter.
So I'm a current junior at high school at Rios. I've been at DCP since 6th grade. I am a person that's in a little bit of everything at school. I play sports, I'm on different clubs, student council, leadership, all of that. I don't know, it's just like, how could it be told that our school's gonna get closed down or potentially closed down this late in the year? Like, if it was told at the beginning of the year, we could have been more of considerate. Okay, I'm only gonna be with this person so long on this team and so forth. Like volleyball, for example, I could have been cherishing more of those times and those memories with those people and making it last longer. Same for softball. Just a lot of things that people said on those emails, a lot of questions that I had too. That's it for now, that's on top of my head.
Thank you. Gabriel?
Hello, my name is Gabriel. I'm currently a student at DCP. I'm a senior and I'm currently a student council president. Excuse me if I'm a bit nervous. I'll just might cut out every now and then, but just wanted to warn you ahead of time. I'm extremely disappointed. I've been a part of DCP for almost 8 years. Years filled with love and support from my fellow teachers and staff. Years of feeling a part of my community that creates a sense of family almost. Not only does it create a sense of family, it also creates a huge sense of belonging. Throughout this year, I've been more connected to my fellow juniors and teachers and fellow students of all grade levels. I saw their dedication to making their classroom feel more welcoming and encouraging. I saw their sacrifice that they made as they supported their students. And then on a random Wednesday, out of nowhere, we received an email saying that basically the school is shutting down. My question is, where was that community where is the community that you guys like to preach about? Where was that desire to fight for our school? We students deserve much more than what you guys are giving us right now. So today I urge you, please reconsider this closure because I want to be able to look back at the school because it has been a huge legacy for me and I love this school.
Thank you. John Miluso?
Good afternoon. I'm getting a little sick here, so I'll keep the mask on and try to project. But good afternoon, members of the board. I've had a chance to meet some of you and teach others of you. But if I haven't had the pleasure, my name is John Miluso, you heard, and I'm one of the founding teachers of the Alum Rock High School, the Alum Rock Schools cluster. And I've been there since the inception of the school. 13 years ago, ideating on napkins about our vision for what the school might look like in a coffee shop, and it's been a real honor to have a hand in building the school from the ground up. So obviously, when I heard the news, when you said the news about the closure, it was pretty devastating. Half of my adult life has been dedicated to these students, these families, this community. And as someone who's seen generations of students literally come through our doors as awkward little kids and really transform and metamorphose and walk the stage, be embraced by their families and go off to college, transformed into these amazing young people. I've seen firsthand the impact that our scrappy little school has had in transforming so many lives. And of course, I'd like to see this continue. I'm really proud of this work, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this community. I made the decision before you. It was very difficult, but I urge you just to keep at the forefront of your minds when you're making the decision. The young people who will inevitably be impacted by the closure, and of course, keeping in mind the families who have entrusted their children to us during the most formative years of their youth. As you've heard, some people have been with us for 7 years. Please make sure that the value of the community that is at the center of the decision. And I'm a believer that when community comes together, it will be possible to become possible. This community really deserves Alum Rock High School. Thank you.
Andrea, Fazel?
My name is Andrea Fazel. I've worked at DCP since 2017 and in education since 1995. I'm proud to work at DCP and to serve DCP families. However, this moment makes me pause. 12 years ago, I worked in a different charter school. We faced a similar set of financial challenges. We were fortunate to experience specific, transparent, and proactive central leadership. We knew what was happening, why it was happening, and what we could do to avoid the worst case scenario. I have also appreciated experiencing this kind of leadership at El Primero throughout my time here. Sadly, I have not seen the same kind of leadership from DCP when it comes to today's recommendation. All of DCP deserves specific, transparent, proactive leadership. Without this, trust will continue to erode, and I fear that we will continue to have declining enrollment and lose outstanding teachers, staff, and admin. The DCP community needs and deserves transparency and specificity rather than platitudes and generalities. We need to understand what has happened and why, so that we can learn from and avoid repeating mistakes. Please explore alternatives to the path being recommended to you today. DCP deserves better.
Cesar, Rios?
Hello, my name is Cesar Rios. I'm a teacher at Alum Rock High School. I won't take long. When you guys were looking for a CEO, you guys described yourselves with a few bullets such as a commitment to continuing and internalizing diversity, equity, and inclusion work that is underway across the organization, and expand community parent involvement and student enrollment, which, based on what I've seen recently, is just not what it feels like. And the way I think about this is we're trying to serve students. It's the students first. And the way that this was pretty much rolled out and communicated is not emphasizing that kind of commitment. That's what I want to say.
Rosa? Rico? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rosa Ito. I'm a DCP Alum Rock parent. Our family has been part of the DCP Alum Rock community for 9 years, including 1 alumni in her 2nd year at USC and a soon-to-be 8th grade graduate. I have been an active parent attending Fabricitos, school site council meetings, parent-led meetings, and was a founding member of the athletics booster club at the high school. I also previously spoke at the district board meetings with other parents to prevent unfair leasing practices for the credit. This is all to say, I have invested in the culture and community of DCP Alum Rock, and I feel very upset by the way in which the closing of the high school was proposed for Alum Rock community.
DCP CEO, Mr. Settelmayer, informed the school community via an email formal letter. The stakeholders were offered a chance to join a community town hall meeting to discuss this recommendation for school closure and its implications. While attending this meeting, it was clear that he had no intention of discussing the possibility of keeping the school open and used the meeting only as a formality. I was disheartened to see a meeting with such a short time limit where the CEO spent the majority of the time talking and not listening, and then only allowed questions from the entire community, about 2 questions. This approach did not say to me desire, community, and pride, which are our values. Since this meeting, we've not been given time to express our grievances. Parents and students feel like they don't matter in a community that is typically shown the opposite. We've been pushed to see how great the other DCP location is without acknowledgement that we have our own Alum Rock identity that's being taken from us. Closing the high school without providing the stakeholders a chance to access alternative solutions is not the DCP that I've invested so many years in. Please consider how closing the high school will have lasting consequences to our already underserved community and the trusted reputation that this charter organization has fought to build.
Eileen, Padama.
I'm Eileen. I'm a DCP parent. Been one for about 7 years almost. And I raised my daughter Madison. And so I'm really upset. I'm really upset on not as much as the closure, which I really hate for it to happen, but the planning, the organization of the closure was so poorly done. This is something that possibly, if it would have been brought out a couple years ago, as you showed slideshows of it declining, there was no, at that point ever, for anybody that's watching the declining, to do any kind of intervention. There was no, we talked about parent participation as far as getting out in there and driving out kids to come and, showing them what a great, DCP is, how great their academics is, how great their teachers are, the involvement of everybody. That was never ever done, and it's such a shame that poor planning, the kids now have to suffer, that my daughter, she won't be able to do the things that she should do in her senior year. There's no way she can go to a school and everything she's built about DCP, repeat it in a year. That's just ridiculous to expect that to happen. On top of that, nobody's ever talked about, when I said poor planning, the transcripts. Does the transcripts go over easy? DCP was not built on a regular public school system. So are those transcripts going to be to go over? They're not. They're not going to go over as easy. Nobody thought about that. Nobody in any of the meetings talked about any of those things. So now what are they supposed to do? Some of the schools require 2 years of PE. They don't do PE at DCP. Some of those classes don't go over as well. Did anybody think of that? There's so much poor planning in this. If this would have been something like, in 2 years we can close down, and we're gonna, do this planning and do this, other options for the students, there's no way other options are gonna be done next month in this fair. It's just not realistic, It may be a good start, but it's not realistic this short time to close the school when there's just so much things that have to come in place for it to happen. So to close it would be shame on the people that make that decision, because it's just not a realistic thing for the students, and it's supposed to be what's best for the students, not what's best for anybody else but the students. And I think they're forgotten. You're looking at DCP as a whole, whereas us parents and us the teachers and everything are looking at Alum Rock and those students and what's best for them. Those are our concerns. I'm sorry it's not the big whole picture. My concern is Alum Rock and those kids.
Carolina Rodriguez. Carolina Rodriguez.
This is a message from South Bay Educators United Leadership Team. SBEU opposes the closure of Alum Rock High School. We believe that the abrupt disruption to students, families, and staff will greatly harm DCP's relationship to the community, and we are not convinced that the decision is financially necessary at this time. We are additionally concerned about the manner in which Pete Settelmayer has navigated his recommendation. We are disturbed that downward trends in enrollment were not prioritized earlier, and we share the concern of families that the impacted groups have not been given a chance to provide input in this process before the decision to recommend the closure had already been made. The communication in this process has been limited, confusing, and at times even hostile. None of these conditions contribute to a student's first approach to leading the organization. We believe that funding should be reallocated to keep Alum Rock High School open, and collaborative recruitment efforts should be explored on urgent timelines. Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspectives on this. We know based on emails to families and messaging to staff that this is the first of 2 opportunities to speak to this topic. Thank you for your consideration.
John Benoit.
My name is John Benoit. I've been teaching at Alum Rock High School since the fall of 2016. I'm a teacher because of Alum Rock High School, the community there. I was always proud of teaching at DCP. I thought we tried harder, we aimed higher, and we did more because of our students, our families, and that they deserve the best. Our community, our best. Those 4 words are my challenge to you. We've been told there's 2 primary reasons why ARHS is closing: enrollment and money. Enrollment is an issue. It's been going down for years. The enrollment numbers for this year were largely low. Sorry, I'm gonna lose it. March of last year. What the heck has been done in the last 10 months with that data? 9 months went by, and it's, oh my God, enrollment is an issue. Money, same thing. DCP projection in July was that you would have a $9 million reserve at the end of this year because of the deficits. Your money would go down to $9 million. First interim budget, expected reserves at the end of the year, $9 million. Same number. Why is money suddenly an issue when it's the same number from July? What's going on? I'll tell you 1 or 2 things going off script. DCP is closing the one school that doesn't owe millions of dollars in bonds. We have the cheapest operating costs. We are the easiest one to keep open. We are the last one that owes money though. So we're the easiest one to close. Our community, our best, has not been happening in this process since last year. We should do better. You should do better.
Yeah, that was the last comment. Written comment that's been submitted. Okay, I will now formally call our meeting together. Board members, we're going to, I'm going to facilitate a roll call and voting both verbally and via onboard. Because some folks can't get into our onboard, so we're going to do it both ways. Yep, so our
You could do it one way, but it would be on board. So we have to the front, right? We said no. We do it all over. We can do.
Okay, we'll do it verbally. We'll do it all verbally. Okay, I called our February board meeting to order at 5:11 p.m. And I will do roll call. Maria Arellano, present. Josue Fuentes is running late, so he'll be joining us. Con Russo.
Here.
Kathy Yates. Darcie Green. John Copeland's absent. Kathryn Hansen. Here. Mark Ketzel.
Here.
Raylene Hernandez. Mary Curtis is absent. Cuitlahuac Ramirez.
Here.
Julia Ibarra Fresco. Okay, I'll just confirm that yes, we do have quorum. And let's go to our first agenda item, which is our consent agenda topics, and there are two of them. And one is the special board meeting minutes of January 13th. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Tom. Second. Thank you, Raylene. I vote yes. Con?
Yes.
Kathy Yates? Thank you. Darcie Green? Oh, she just stepped out. Okay, I'll come back to Darcie. Kathryn Hansen?
Yes.
Mark Ketzel?
Yes.
Raylene Hernandez? Cuitlahuac Ramirez? Sylvia Ivada Fresquez?
Yes.
Okay, did Darcie come back? Okay. Our second consent agenda topic is our board meeting minutes of January 23rd. And do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I second.
Thank you, Kathryn. And Con, thank you for your second. I vote yes. Con Russo?
Yes.
Kathy Yates?
That was the one I missed, the one you're doing on the prior one was supposed to be.
Okay. Is Darcie back? Okay, Kathryn Hansen?
Yes.
Mark Ketzel?
Yes.
Raylene Hernandez? Cuitlahuac Ramirez?
Yes.
Sylvia Ivada Fresquez?
Yes.
Darcie. Yes.
Darcie, while you stepped out, we voted on the minutes, for both the special board meeting that was held on Jan 13 and the board meeting minutes of Jan 23. And do you vote yes or no?
Yes, I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, and now let's go to our other agenda topics. The school accounting report card.
So, Board of Directors, you were given the information last time as information for the SARP reports for each of the school sites. As I mentioned there, it was basically a data poll for each of the school sites. You get time to do those. It's all we need to approve of.
Board members, are there any questions or comments for Madison regarding this topic? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the SARC, S-A-R-C?
I move to approve the SARC.
Thank you, Con. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Cuitlahuac. I vote yes. Con Russo?
Yes.
Kathy Yates? Darcie Green?
Yes.
Kathryn Hansen?
Yes.
Mark Ketzel?
Yes.
Raylene Hernandez? Cuitlahuac Ramirez? Sylvia Ivada Fresquez?
Yes.
Okay, and our next topic is the reduction in grade served as the DCP Alum Rock charter.
So board members, in your packet, I have given you some information on the recommendation to the reduction of grades served from 6 to 12 to grades 6 to 8 in the high school consolidation to Alba High School. Okay. One of the things as an educator for over 20 some odd years is that I didn't enter this vocation to deny students their experience in school. That what I know, what we know as educators and as parents, that education is something that we all hold in common. education is the one thing that somebody told me earlier today that differentiates a democratic society, that inspires the right to have voice, as all of you shared today, and that's important. Voice and agency and speaking the truth is important. And so, as we go through it, I have shared numbers and numbers with you before. And I just know that these numbers are represented in those faces that are with us today, those voices that have been illuminated over the time that we've had this conversation. I pulled a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King because this is disappointing. In more ways than one. But my North Star, and the North Star of the organization, is that we must instill hope. And where one area closes, it gives us opportunity to think about the organization and how we sustain this organization. So I will go through numbers with you and share kind of where we are and why we are where we are today. And for some of you, for all of you, this will be focused on information that we've discussed. But I think some of our speakers, rightly so, mentioned ganas, comunidad, orgullo, right? Desire, community, and pride. And at this point, at this time in our organization, it's about the community that we serve. It's about the students that we serve. It's about giving them the experience that they deserve in a school and giving them everything that encompasses. In the classroom, within the halls, out on the playing field. And that's what makes a high school community. It's the interactions and the relationships that we have. And so this recommendation is not taken lightly. It's definitely not why I got in the business of teaching and learning. So what I have for you here is the enrollment. And it starts in 2019, obviously there are years between 2019 and 23-24. But it tells a story of DCP. The high school, the middle school. And we can see that there is a greater reduction in the middle school enrollment. So when we look at the cost of providing those experiences for our students and making sure that they have everything they need, a counselor, a social worker, somebody to be at the front office. The numbers in high school just don't support that continued effort and the continued resources that our students and families need, more so than anybody else. If we look at the districts in the area that surround the DCP schools, Alba, San Jose Unified, Franklin McKinley, Eastside Unified, all together, just in the 4 of the 15 school districts that make up San Jose, have lost 9,000 students. Just this week, Alum Rock USD announced a closure of Madison. That will be decided in April. What we know, both not only in Silicon Valley, but throughout the state of California and nationally as well, is especially in large urban settings, school enrollment is declining. And on top of that, we are faced with a California budget that is declining as well. So in your package, you also have a multi-year draft projection, and this is just working through what would it be like to sustain Alum Rock High School with no changes, right? Keeping an administrative staff, keeping the support staff, keeping the number of teachers, keeping all the things, all the programs that are needed to fulfill the mission of the organization. And all things staying the same, what we show is a multi-year projection this year at 4.7 million, and then continued deficits within the organization. As you know, those reserve or those ending balance are made up of both assets, fixed assets, right, which is money that is not really available to us, as well as cash. And so what does that look like when you think about Alum Rock High School in particular? And so again, keeping all things the same, assuming that enrollment stays the same, we see that we have a continued deficit. And it grows in the year 25-26. So almost done. The important thing to note too is this is the cash balance. So again, this draft is based on status quo, keeping things as they are. And what we see is that in November, we have 0 days cash on hand, which means we would not be able to make payroll. In December, we become negative, and then it continues with a bump towards, I believe that is probably, that's May, and then again, deficits in June and July. The bump is cash flow. So it's when received or projected to be received funds, right? Yes. And we hope to get to that. I think it's important to note where too is that the governor's budget is still going through iterations, right? And there are still conversations about what that budget will look like, and where the budget was presented in January that was not favorable. It's less favorable as we are moving closer to June, right? And it's all based on state revenue. And so there are several concerns that even the numbers that we're looking at are not accurate numbers because we're still waiting on the budget. So I want to say what we did in this next slide when we just look at cash flow. We look at where we are if we were to make the decision to close Alum Rock High School or to reduce the grade serve from 6 to 12 to 6 to 8. Our bondholders require 45 days of cash on hand. If you look at those numbers, where there's cash on hand and we show a positive, there's still some work to do, and this is just with closing or reducing the grade serve from 6 to 12. So there's more work to do, right? More work to do within the central office around continued cuts around the central office, and then working with our site leaders at Alum Rock Middle School and the Alma campus, which hosts Helping Middle and Helping.
I don't think any issue was disclosed by Pete Settelmayer.
Okay, so right now, we're out of compliance with our Bible.
Well, this is because this is a draft budget. This is going through the iterations of a budget. So it's not, if we were to present this budget, then yes, right, it would be out of compliance.
And then what are the implications of being out of compliance?
So out of compliance, there's a lot of things that can happen. I'm gonna make sure that Ruth keeps me honest. But the one thing that can happen is, so our bonds are hold, there's a 90-10 split, so somebody owns 90% of our bonds. Basically, bonds are stocks in the school. And then somebody owns 10% of the bonds. Those bondholders, if we are not in compliance, could put an organization in charge of the school that will really just look at the bottom line. And that bottom line would just be, how do we make sure that our bonds are safe? How do we make sure that our investments are safe? And so that's the last thing we want for somebody else to come in and determine what is right for students who need the most support.
Just to make sure I characterize it and understand it correctly, in the case where our bondholders, say that we're out of compliance, and then they exercise their right to put in different management, is it fair to say that that management will not be centering students and community in the way that we are centering students and community now, or would like to?
I don't assume anything, but I would assume that their first order of business is to protect the bondholders. So we get into numbers, and I'm going back to kind of Alum Rock High School. So given a $1.3 million deficit next year, what I shared with you before is all things stay the same, but we can't fund a deficit, right? For lots of reasons, for the reasons we discussed around bondholders, for the reasons we discussed around we have to have a sustainable program. So on average, the average salary is about $124,000 at Alum Rock High School, and that's all in, including benefits, right? So benefits add extra cost to that. So if you just do simple math, there are 23 positions right now at Alum Rock High School. 11 of those positions would have to be cut to create a balanced budget. And again, I think it's important to know in those numbers that those are students, right? And what does our student body look like, right? 75% have the ability to receive free and reduced lunch. And I will excuse me on my dyslexia because I spelled neurodiverse wrong, but 28 or 14% are neurodiverse. And then 45 or 22% are classified as English learners. So we think about that number, and they don't tell the story, right? Because out of those 11 that we'd have to cut, there would be athletic director, there would be counselors or social work, there would be a teacher, there would be administration. And it just does not become a viable program when you are down to 12 staff to take care of students and the immense needs of our students, right? So therein lies that decision of if we cut 11 positions, what are those positions? And how do they least impact students? And when thinking through these scenarios, the one thing that we kept to the center of our decision is to how do we least impact the students we serve. We have worked to think about ways outside of our own avenues, thinking with other charter school partners around what could be possible and how could we combine forces, how could we use back office services. but because authorization and school needs and different school needs, there was just no way to untangle that web. It would be great to have the ability to relocate a school, but we don't have the time span in which that needs to happen, nor do we have the political leverage with school districts that would be amenable to. So there are a lot of things in there that aren't working for our favor when we think about how do we mitigate this, or what other scenario could we possibly do to continue the mission at Alum Rock as a 6-12 So we have engaged the community in different areas. We had a staff meeting first with those primarily affected, which are the high school staff members. We did send an email communication out on January 31st. We've had family community meeting on February 5th at the Alum Rock Middle School gym. There was a high school meeting that Friday with the Alum Rock parents at Capasuto. I would like to thank all the school attendance. And there's a lot here, but this was kind of our marching orders from that meeting. What we did was we asked the parents, and the parents said to us, you know, if you're closing the school, we need support. And what does that look like? And so this is some of the support that they asked. Transcripts are a big item, and we have our academic managing director of academics working on that with her team. We've already worked on changing F pluses on transcripts. So we have posted most all of this in a different view on our website, and we will continue to update that FAQ as well. So, Ms. Akbar, who's not here, came to Mr. Zavala, hosted a middle school 8th grade family night on February 15th.
I'm sorry, I got a quick question real fast. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't understand what a $719,000 in maintenance and repairs is. I'm looking at the papers here.
Yeah.
$719,000 in maintenance and repairs?
What is our procedures for answering questions from the public?
So unfortunately it's not a dialogue, and I'll be happy to answer that question after.
But I would like everybody to know where some of this money's going.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? If you come back on that, you come back on the maintenance.
You have a chance for public comment.
Okay, I'm telling you now. I mean, if you don't like it, just tell me.
So I'm going to continue on. We will be hosting on March 6th at Alum Rock Middle School in Charterhouse Open House from 6 to 7 p.m.
I didn't get down there.
That will be, we will have KIP, ACE, the Hispanic Foundation for Education, and Alba Public Schools in attendance to that. And all schools will be represented. Hispanic Foundation for Education as well as DCP will represent their 3 schools. KIP has 2 schools. ACE and Alpha have 1 high school. And our goal there is to make sure that our families know that they have opportunity and continued agency in their decision about where to go after Alum Rock High School. The administrative team and advisory team have committed to support students in their decisions. As you know, we have a scholarship, and we've offered 5 scholarships to seniors at both Alum Rock High School and 5 scholarships to seniors at El Primero High School. We will be extending 5 scholarships to the juniors at Alum Rock High School. And so that information, as soon as we are in the middle of a round with our current seniors, as soon as we're finished with that scholarship round, what we'll do is put the package together, and it will mirror the package, so they will have that opportunity, no matter where they go, to have that scholarship. As I mentioned, we have a website landing page. the DCP website, there's an FAQ. We have that open for families to continue to add to that FAQ as questions come up. We will provide charter high school registration information, as well as our Eastside Union High School. We're part of that as well. Continued cafecitas at Alum Rock High School, so March 1st, which is this Friday, April 12th, and May 3rd. Alma campus is having a student showcase and open house on March 20th, 2024. So another way to continue to share the good work that is also going on at El Primero, because both high schools have had some amazing programs. So we want to continue that as much as possible. With our staff, for our non-union staff members, we are currently working with the union, but we are talking through what open positions look like. But our staff at Alum Rock High School will have our non-union staff, because we're still working on an agreement with our union. But our non-union staff will have the ability to apply to open positions in which they're qualified for. The SBEU job fair, which we are encouraging members of our team to go to if they want the job outside of downtown College Prep, is March 15th. We are working right now on either doing a charter school job fair, or we'll send open postings. And we're working with our charter school partners to for us to have the ability to tag our staff, so that they'll know that we have staff coming from DCP and can accept them with open arms should they choose to. We are working on providing release time for interviews, so outside of, we don't think it's right to have somebody use a personal day or a sick day. So for our non-SBEU members, we'll be sharing that with them. And for SBEU members, we will be waiting for that agreement. And then we are working with, actually, the Latina Coalition has connected us with some folks who can help with resume writing. So we'll be doing a resume writing workshop for Alum Rock High School staff. So I would conclude here. And before I take questions from the board, again, I think this is unfortunate. And if there was another way, if there was another path, if there was any way to have a workable program with students in mind, I would not make this recommendation. But because we are where we are, and in the time that we're in, there is no other recommendation that I can make that would not make our students suffer and not make the ability of this organization to live up to both the mission and the values.
Thank you, Pete. Board members, are there any comments or questions?
I have a question about, we've got 205 students at the high school. What's the minimum number of students necessary to make it financially viable high school? And is it 210 or is it 275 or 300? I mean, I'm just trying to get a relative sense.
So at 250 students, we were still in a budget deficit, right, for the school. So it's somewhere north of 250, 275 students. Excuse me, 285. Because sustaining, not only the academic program, right? But again, high school is a very different program, right? It's a very expensive program. And it rightly should be, right? Because our students at that age need support. And so it's at what level of service, right? And so it's a hard question to answer because there is not a magic number, right? I think that, Ruth, I'm gonna go to you on this. Originally, the school was supposed to be how many students?
420 plus.
420 plus, right? And that was to be sustained. Right? That was to support.
So you're talking about twice the size of the primary in order to be sustainable. Thank you.
I have one question, Pete. I know, as we were finalizing the budget for this school year, we had a lot of discussion at the board about should we run at a deficit or not. And we decided this year we would run at a financial deficit because we wanted to provide the services that we felt were appropriate. Could you remind me what the original forecast deficit was for this year versus the current estimate?
Yeah, so it's $2.5 million this year. The current estimate, and so we are right now going through our second interim budget process, which will kind of take into consideration all the cuts that we made earlier this year. But it's around $4 million, so almost double.
Your documents
And
disagree
so
with that?
What you have to realize is that the biggest reason for that is the enrollment decrease, right? So the budget was based on very conservative numbers at the time, and there was a big loss this year in enrollment.
Okay, thank you. What's our capacity at El Camino?
The height of El Primero was 1,200 students, both middle school and high school. It is now 703, 705 students, depending. And so there is capacity to absorb every student, right? At Alum Rock High School. We are limited by our class size. So there are two things that limit us, which is good. We have a class size of 32. We also have in El Primero and El Camino, we have team top classrooms, or the ability for team top classrooms, which would actually kind of expand that number, but we don't have that ability given our current agreement.
So under our current agreements, we can absorb all the students at El Camino.
Yes.
I just think, a lot of the comments today was about the values of DCP and the culture of DCP. And I'm trying to think about what are our options in terms of sustaining, right, that culture and being able to continue those values. And like DCP, although each school has its own character and charisma and culture, overall, we as an organization also carry those values. So it feels to me like, to kind of help students pick an option that kind of will sustain that sense of belonging and culture. El Camino is at least a viable option for them. I appreciate that we're doing an open house that includes other options because we want to give parents and students as much agency as possible. But it's helpful for me to see and understand that, El Camino is also an option that can help that we carry forward, some of those experiences that the students have had.
Can I get some clarity on the decision to, I think, focus, maybe I missed something in the presentation, but to focus on clothing or, I guess,
Reduce the grade surge.
Reducing the grade surge at one school versus making cuts across all of them.
So there is still, right, we will still have to make cuts, right? Again, when we go back and look at the multi-year projection for Alum Rock High School, we don't anticipate, even with best recruitment efforts, doubling the size of that school or having a 15% increase in enrollment. And so when we think about it's like from a cost perspective to run the middle school versus the high school program, there's just a higher cost in that. And so, the option is to go to SBEU, to Santa Clara County Office of Education, and say, relinquish the charter altogether. But then we don't serve the students within our middle school in our 16. Because we would have no school.
One of the things that was alarming in the presentation, and something that we've heard from the parents and students, of course, is like the process in which we have communicated this, has been just bad. Like the experience that the teachers and the students and parents felt has been bad. And I think when I look at that, like I hope parents and teachers also see the declining enrollment as a middle school as kind of another 2-year out warning, right? Like we do want to provide as much as possible. Like those other schools, unless we see an upward trend, we're experiencing the same things that this high school is experiencing now, right? So I wonder what can we learn from this process here that will need to apply to all of the other schools that are having declining enrollments, because based on those trends, you can't keep on going 44% reduction and not have an impact to closing another school very shortly, right? So like I'm trying to think through how can we as a board and as a community learn from this experience and then apply it to what we already are seeing today as potential impacts to DCP as a whole. So maybe that's something we can agendize for the future kind of conversation and meeting. I've been involved in several school closures. I was with the diocese when we had to close schools. And it is Pete's teary-eyed, like, we've been teary-eyed about this as board members for months now, right? Like, we meet on Saturdays and like, it's our Pride Fest because of the impact that this has on our students. Like, I'm a first-generation immigrant, right? Like, I'm on this board because my teachers were Greg and Jennifer Andrews. Like Greg Lippman and Jennifer Andrews were my teachers, and they were the ones who gave me the opportunity. So I served because I know the incredible impact DCP has. So for those who feel that we, are being deceptive, or those who feel that like we are trying to hurt students, or like intentionally like being flippant about these decisions, at least I can assure you that like from my experience and the experience I've had with board members, we've been crying about this for months also, right? But we're trying to do it in the least impactful way to students and families. You heard Pete say that Alum Rock just announced that they will be closing and making a decision within a month also. So this is a national trend that we need help on. So like we continue to invite you, and I think to help us figure out how to do this and preserve the beautiful culture that DCP has been able to provide. Like, we don't want to do this. Like,
it is
I
deceptive.
don't want to do this.
It is deceptive because he just said that you guys agreed to run in the deficit for a year. Did anybody know that? Did the teachers know that? Did the parents know that? Was there a community discussion?
Formal.
I know, but it has to be pointed out.
Yeah. Thank you. Con, did you finish your comment?
I think I'm gonna question on that. So are you saying, just so that closing by reducing, I'm also affected by this, so sorry for parents. That reducing the size of the school would then mean that we have more time to figure out, and space to figure out a plan for the best. Is that what you're, like the rest of DCP?
Right.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Let's clarify that, 'cause I'm not sure,
Yeah.
I'm not sure you answered what I think I heard Raylene ask.
Okay.
So, I think you're asking, could we reduce the size of our high school some and avoid the need to close it entirely? Or-
No, but that's a great question. I never got to them.
I think the answer to that is no. I mean, we saw the rejection. We are in a situation without the level of savings that is contemplated in this proposal to reduce the service with grade 6 to 8 and consolidate the high school program out in Europe. Without the savings that come along with that, we are almost certainly facing bondholders coming in to say, we have to take it.
And your question about the reduced size then was not for DCP as a whole, or
Yeah,
specific
that's
school?
just, I think, confirming, I think as we're thinking about the voting process and having to make decisions, like, does this mean that, does this buy us enough, or I guess actually maybe a more specific question, how much time till, like, to what Con was speaking to, that we then have to make another decision like this? Like, how much time does it give us? I think for the purpose of like, wanting to, I think, be transparent for folks, but also like, yeah, thinking about options.
A lot of that depends on enrollment, right? And the budget, and the state budget, and state funds, right? So there are just lots of, what's in our control is making sure that we have great programs, strong family engagement, continue to think about, as Con pointed out, how do we continue to build upon the culture, because there are great things. There are amazing things that are happening at Alum Rock High School and Alum Rock Middle School and right? And there's a lot of competition for students right now, right? There are a lot of competition for students on the east side when you think about all the charter schools, right? That are out. And so we have to be, I think what this boils down to for me is that, and as a alumni, what made DCP unique in 24 years ago was the fact that it was a community, right, that came together, that was hyper-focused on this group of students. And then what happened with most charter schools in the Valley, it was grow, replicate, and get bigger. With an eye on, we'll just continue to increase our enrollment, increase our enrollment, increase our enrollment. And that is not the reality that we're living. And so, as we were going through this budgeting process, our job is to have a budget that is balanced, right? And that can be sustainable, right? We submit to the county a 2-year budget, right? And we have to show that we have sustainability for 2 years. It really is hard to project anything outside of that because could we have another pandemic? Maybe. Could we have things that happen in the world that influence where we are locally? Maybe. We all see what's going on, right? So the best answer I can give you is, we are working to, within that 2-year time frame, to make sure that we are sustainable. I am working within the organization to make us smaller and leaner and really put all resources towards students where all resources belong. And so, there will be changes and continued changes that impact what we look like as an organization with the least impact on students.
I'd like to make a comment, board, colleagues, regarding enrollment. We talked about, and we saw some data of what's going on with our neighboring schools. And so this isn't unique to just DCP. And in fact, I also want to go as far to say it isn't unique just to lower ed. I serve on an upper ed college level board, and there's similar conversations going on at that level. So this is the industry of education. Enrollment is down. And it's unfortunate because education this is what frustrates me, and on the other hand, why I serve here and in upper ed. Because it bothers me that education is underinvested in our country.
Pete, I wonder, reflecting the comments from our community, whether we can set up a task force or, that's gonna be focused on enrollment between now and September, right? Like, we can't, we have to improve enrollment in all of our schools. So again, right, like, the problem doesn't go away, right? To whatever we vote on today, the problem doesn't go away. It actually amplifies the critical need to engage students and teachers and do all the things that, we need to do to increase enrollments throughout DCP, period. So maybe that's something we can think about and consider also, right? For those who spoke up and really want to help us think through how to make sure that all of DCP survives, then we would love for you to step up and give us your insights and tell us all the things that we didn't do and did wrong so we can fix it so that this doesn't happen to all the other sites.
So I will add to that, Con, is there's a place in saying step up and saying what opportunities we have. But again, what made DCP unique 24 years ago was the fact that everybody, parents, teachers, administrators, the organization as a whole wasn't looking for whose job was it to recruit. It was an all-in process. And where resources can be put towards that, it has to be of and from the community. It has to be of and from the community. And so, yes, we can triage.
How many events have you invited us to?
And we're working with support.
We can't show up if we don't know.
And we will continue to do that. So.
I do think that a broad focus on enrollment and engaging both parents and students even who are in our schools to be part of the enrollment, going after not just steady state enrollment, but trying to increase it in the schools that will remain. I think it makes a lot of sense, and whether it starts with a committee or whether it starts, I'm happy having that there are multiple ways to solve it, but I think we ought to have a very organized, planning-oriented strategy to maintain enrollment and, if possible, increase it. That includes members not just of the board and the staff, but also of the community at large.
So I concur with that. I think I also want to remind us of the environment that we're in.
I mean,
We're
we have to
not
do
gonna
better, but
how are we
we're
gonna
gonna solve
double
it.
The DCP is twice worse enrollment drop than everyone else. 28% versus 14%.
Yeah, we put some effort in there, but just setting,
You have a
I look
bigger
forward to the
problem.
challenge of doubling our enrollment in today's environment.
So can I make a motion to vote?
Any other comments?
We were told 2 meetings.
You're voting next month. All the communication
Why did you lie to
and
families?
vote next month.
To their faces.
Your email said next month you were voting.
Yeah, so vote was on the agenda for this month's board
doesn't say
meeting.
vote.
And any other comments from the board members?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, any other final comments before we go to?
Well, I'm like under the weather right now, and I'm a little sick and tired. But I mean, I joined this board. What is it? 4 months ago? Not too long ago. And I didn't join this board to close any schools. And I feel that as a board member, as someone who's like supposed to do what is in the best interest of the entire organization, I feel conflicted because I also feel a very strong connection to the Alum Rock site. So what's this I'm shaking? I mean, I was there just today. I'm tutoring there twice a week. I didn't take the name tag off. So I mean, I might have, maybe that was on my part for not looking at the agenda correctly, but I didn't know we were voting on this today.
Nobody did.
Nobody did.
You never told families you were voting. It said action item.
Our letter says that there was not going to be a vote today.
Say the next one.
So anyway, board members, so again, the topic is posted on the agenda for our bylaws in advance, and it's all, that's appropriate.
Thank you for your transparency.
But to just summarize or finish what I'm saying, I feel deeply for this, what's happening, and it's a damn shame because I didn't think this was gonna happen, and it's the last thing I would have expected.
Thank you. Other final comments, board members?
I think I will say, like, I'm new to this version of board, the community dynamic of not being able to respond, and I will name that I am like really struggling, and I can't not do it, so I'm just gonna say that out loud. I think, so my fellow board members, what I feel is concerning is hearing the mismatch between what people are saying about like it not being communicated and then versus like what's in the agenda. And again, I'm new and green in this way, but is there space to, like, I would like to, I guess, get some more clarity on like potential like pondering around where that miscommunication came from. I think it impacts my, well, I don't know, I also feel very conflicted, and I'm struggling to like work through this in this space.
Yeah, and Darcie. Can we get clarification on the agenda item was posted as an action item?
Yes.
Okay, so it was posted for a vote?
Yes.
Are we familiar with, I'm not directly responding to anyone's comment, but just asking a question of the board. Are we familiar with any other communications that may have gone out that may have said that this was just a discussion item and not an action item? Has there been communication from the school directly that this is a discussion item and not an action item?
It's what Pete said at the ARMS meeting.
So we did say, thank you, Darcie, we did say originally that this would be brought to the board for information and a decision. In meeting with the board members who set the agenda, it was moved to an action item. And so the board sets the agenda.
Did you ever send an email that said we are voting on this?
Yes, Kathryn?
The question I have would be whether we could move to delay the vote until next meeting.
Yeah, if that's how the board votes, I want to also share, time. We've also heard from our community around, I want to know. So we need to be swift and timely and making the best decision possible. And so I'm also a little, it's like, okay, well, the longer votes are delayed, it impacts the families.
I guess actually, yeah, I guess I'm a board member, I can share whatever people want. So, but I guess my thoughts would be that to your point, I agree, swift decision making is necessary. I think one point of clarity I'd love is, I guess, why, what was why, can I get some context as to why the decision was made to move it from discussion to action by maybe the smaller subcommittee, or the committee that decided that? That's one point of clarification. And then to your point, I think to mitigate further harm, depending on maybe that answer, I'm in support of the idea that if at all possible, and maybe I'll answer first, that we would create as much spaciousness as we can to listen and to look and to hear.
So I'll try to take the first one and Pete, please, comment. So, again, it's the timing. So, voting on this next month is 30 days. Families don't know what is it, are we consolidating high schools? What is the plan moving forward? Are we reducing, 5 to 12, 5 to 8? It's another 30 days of everyone being in, I don't know. And so if we, feel that that's
I
not.
think it creates much more harm to community by not. Like we are trying to put in all the services, right? Like
Mhm.
all the programming services in place for this transition. Moving all of that will continue to create even more harm on our families. Right? Like they're already mad that the decision or the information wasn't shared earlier, and then now we're already in February and now waiting to April. Right? This is going to add even more harm because then after April, how many more? We have 2 more months.
Darcie, one of the things that I want to be mindful of is whether or not there's any new information we're going to learn between now and the next meeting. And if there is not new information that we're going to learn between now and the next meeting, I think we're in sort of like a Band-Aid situation where not putting it on but staying it off. And I wonder what the benefit might be to waiting if we come to the same conclusion because there's no additional information that we might learn. So the facts are what the facts are today. And we've had, retreats and discussions. I don't know what I just to gain by postponing the vote out additional days. If there's no new information that we heard. Yeah, I would agree if there's no new information. I agree with that. I think I just find it hard, the juxtaposition of and maybe there are 2 different issues, right? And I think space needs to be created and we as a board need to make a commitment to creating that space in which we're actively discussing the way in which community is at the forefront of the design and the work that we're doing in a way that's different than maybe what has currently existed. And so I think what I'm struggling with, right, is not about the decision and if there's no new information, this is the decision that is best for the longevity of DCP as a whole. Of course, that's what I want. But it feels just so I think that it doesn't feel like there's a missing piece of that, that I guess the decision to move it to action, all of these things, and defeating the purpose of everything that we're saying just feels like a contradiction. And I don't think a delayed vote. Go ahead.
I want to build upon what Darcie called out. And speak to the community about, I hear the frustration about you wish we could have communicated earlier.
We wish you did. Not saying anything for 5 months and then changing the vote to be within a month.
I hear
Stop
that
saying community.
everyone wishes. First of all, that we weren't in this situation. Secondly, that we had clarity
what actions needed to be considered very seriously sooner. When we started talking about what are the options that face us, there were a lot of questions that we had to resolve. What are the implications around our bonds? What are the implications around our charters? How would we go about doing it? How about our contracts? All those things had to be considered. And at the time when this began to emerge as a possibility, I think many of those things were at a point where our staff, our executives were having to do research to find out some of the things, like what would be the conversation with SBEU and the charter? How would that conversation evolve, and what might be the possibilities around it? What would the conversations look like with the bondholders? Because just as we needed to tell this community, we needed to tell the community of the bondholders. And they're gonna say, what actions are you taking? And so initially, I think the thinking was that we didn't have all the information at our disposal to be able to act decisively as soon as today and today's board meeting. But a number of conversations have been held, a number of things have been clarified. And we now know that this is an action that is a possible one for us to take. And the normal protocol for communicating what is a board action is to post it on the agenda as an action item. So when it came time to post the agenda, it was posted as an action item. So that's, I think, part of the explanation as to why at the beginning, we weren't sure that we'd be able to have enough information to come and allow the board to feel, okay, we really understand what we're confronted with now. But I think we do, and as these conversations have been held, like Darcie, I don't see any new information. First of all, I don't see a trend of change that's in any way helpful to the students that we want, whose interests we want to protect, particularly those that need to make a transition. And secondly, I don't see any new factors coming to the table that we don't understand at this point.
May I add on to it? A decision to close a school is really just the starting point of the rest of the work we have to do. And all of what I've heard and can't respond to directly because of the different rules that we have here, it's fair and valid, and I would feel the same way. I'm deeply sorry that this is the way that things are going down. And yet we still have an important decision, and we took on these roles, right, to support and cheerlead and be champions of the school, and also to have to make these types of decisions, hopefully prevent them when we can. And these are tough, and this is really, 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 really tough. I know not nearly as tough as you all who are experiencing it. So I know what I'm experiencing right now, sitting up here, is not half of what you all are feeling. And this, I'm thinking about the work ahead, and Raylene, to your point, there is clearly a community that that is expressed in abundance the desire and demand to be involved. We can't go backward and place in your involvement to the way you would have liked it up to this point. But there's opportunity now to move forward together and to figure out some paths that are more collaborative in the way that you all might like to see it, and the way that our school community would like to see it, as Pete mentioned earlier, thinking about what makes DCP a school of choice, right? A school that parents and families choose to go to. I had the honor of serving on the County Board of Ed in Alum Rock School District 2 while these charters were being discussed and introduced, and maybe not the church charter, but and so we have still a long road ahead of us to hopefully get it right in the areas that maybe we
could have done things differently, looking back in hindsight. And eager is the wrong word because there's no eager in any of this moving forward, but I would like to transition toward that work of getting it right from this point on, as we all, as a community, hopefully move together toward this really difficult decision and help to lessen or divert the impacts that it might have to the academic careers of the learners who call this school home, and help them to find other homes worthy of their scholarship, because they are brilliant students and brilliant families, and then work to rebuild.
Thank you, Darcie. Thank you, Kathy, for explaining. I'll be honest, I think I needed some clarity around that. And just appreciate all of you for also holding space for my questions and concerns.
Could I comment on what Pete said? First of all, I understand, and I think it is important that whatever action we take following whatever decision is made sooner rather than later. But I'm also wondering, like, if we've communicated with families about a certain plan, about a course of action, and we've already, for lack of a better word, maybe not done the best job at upholding our commitment to communicating the best way that we could, wouldn't it be, wouldn't it be in our interest to at least do right by them and, follow that plan that's been set? And then I'm also wondering about the things moving forward. Like, I know that we have, like you mentioned, that there's a lot of things that go on after a decision like this is made. If such a, for lack of better words, if we were able to delay this till a March meeting, could that work that needs to be done? Couldn't that happen simultaneously? Like, couldn't we start doing things moving forward in anticipation of a certain verdict or a certain decision? While still, I feel at least doing right by the community and what we told them to expect from us as a board. That's what I want. But at the same time, I understand that there's a lot of pieces.
In an ideal world, so somebody asked for, nobody got an apology. I, as a parent of DCP for 8 years, apologize because I just started in November. And our meeting in December, this was brought to my attention. And the first thing I told Pete was, you need to tell these parents because they need to find a home. Ideally, I would love for all of Alum Rock to come to the Alum site and continue our legacy. Because I would have been in your guys' situation because I have a child that's neurodiverse. And I was gonna move her to Alum, but my older daughter said, no, keep her at Meta. And I did. And look at, I would have been having to find her another home. So I apologize as a parent, but I really would like for you guys to consider coming and continuing the legacy at our site.
I wanna, because I'm struggling with so when we say it was posted, because the agenda was posted with the correct action. So I'm trying to understand the posting, like how was it posted correctly? It was posted with the action item, and I might be missing something, so that's why I'm asking. It might be information.
So I answered. At least from my understanding, it could have been my fault on due diligence. I don't know if I just didn't look at it correctly, but my understanding was that the decision wouldn't have to be, or we wouldn't be making a decision until the March meeting. aside from that, maybe it was on me, maybe I just didn't look at it right, but I don't know exactly in which correspondence it was, but some correspondence to the families, it did say that we were planning on doing these things. And if we did make that change, or if that change was like officially posted by like the routines or like whatever official means we need to do, like, I guess what I'm trying to say, if we did what we have to and just posted it, I think especially considering a matter of this magnitude, it wouldn't have been a terrible idea to maybe announce that further.
Use clear language.
Any more, in a way that could be, I guess, more visible. Because I, as a board member, missed that part. And that's not to say that everybody else missed it, maybe that was just me. But that's like my thinking about that, like, if such a decision, or if such an action item is placed on the agenda regarding something about this, I feel it should have been, maybe we could have communicated that a little more clearly, both, I think, internally and to the community, because it seems that, I guess it's just a hunch, but I think people think it was going to be in March. And that's my train of thought. But yes,
For some reason, we
I guess that's my,
believe what they
I don't know
told
that
us.
answer fully, but that's my.
I think procedurally, there wasn't a mistake in terms of posting it as an action. And we did receive an email on 2/16 that let us know that this was being elevated to an action item, right?
I did see that.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like I'll be abdicating my responsibility as a board member by delaying a vote, because like only if you feel better, like there's no new information, right? Like that is going to be coming out, and I want to serve our students, and I want to not create more harm on our students, on our families, and give them as much time and resources as possible, and then start the next phase of the work.
There is new information. I don't know if it's
So I think that's.
There's a petition. There's like from February 3rd, because I celebrated my birthday that day. At 12/13 that day, we started the petition, and currently to this day, there's 466 people who have signed this petition on the behalf of like students. That the students started the petition.
I think I'm looking for information that will help change the trajectory of the finance and enrollment, right, of the school in the next 3 months. Like, I don't have any reservations that have deeply considered the impacts to students and what students' interest and what their preference are, period. Like, our preference is not to close it either, right? But I took on a fiduciary responsibility when I joined this board to make sure that we're making decisions that is best for the organization. And I personally would feel like I'm abdicating my responsibility and causing more harm to families because there's no additional information that would help inform or change the trajectory of the schools.
How about the fact
I
that
think
it's like 4 times larger?
One do you mind if I speak first, just in response? I think to be very clear, and I would hope that it exists for you as well, I think that the issue is not that, at least I'll speak for myself, that I'm not willing to make a hard decision as a board member. I'm not saying that I will vote yes for something that is gonna ensure that DCP and will exist in its longevity. That's not the issue, at least for me. I think the issue is I think what's missing is it's not that I didn't read an agenda or however all these things. I think it's that something was communicated to the community, it sounds like. And yet, although we updated an agenda, that wasn't also communicated in the same fashion that initial thing was communicated in. And so I think to the point, like I'm not actually advocating, and again, I'm still learning as well, but I'm not necessarily advocating that it waits till March to make a decision. But what would it mean, or what would it mean for our relationships, and that not just from a financial perspective or from a fiduciary responsibility, but a cultural responsibility as leaders in the space to say, okay, I don't know, quorum, enough board members
to meet quorum are gonna meet next week, and again, still learning the process of it all, to then make that decision, so that there's at least a week, a day, a couple of days' time to allow people the autonomy and the space to be able to voice their concerns, even if the decision is the same. To me, I think it's what I'm hearing or what I'm feeling a loss of is maybe all of those families that would have dropped everything to be able to advocate, even if the decision was the same. I think that's what, maybe that's, I don't know if that's what you were kind of referring to, but how do we create even just a day of spaciousness, even just a week of spaciousness, that won't, in the long term, that may have a small impact in the long term financially, or in the decisions or whatever, but culturally and for the purpose of our relationship building with families and with staff and with students, repair just a little bit more. I think that's what I'm wondering is, can we exercise our power as board members to create spaciousness, even if we know that decision is gonna be the same? And to that point, do work simultaneously so that we're not losing a week of time. It's not like we're acting like, well, we're just gonna sit here and do nothing because the decision is next week. I think that's what I'm maybe asking for space to be heard about, and just wanna be very clear that I will make the decision that I need to make for the longevity of DCP.
Can I speak to that, Raylene?
Yeah.
So we can certainly start doing all the things that Pete put up there about interactions that we would like to kick off with students, with families, with the broader community. But we also have to put in a new budget to the state. We also have to meet with our bondholders. Our team can't get out ahead of the board and be declarative and decisive when presenting themselves to state authorities about what is the budget that you're working towards? How much money are you going to be spending over the next 3 years? What actions are you taking to address the deficits that you're currently experiencing? So we'll lose a month of being able to speak definitively with other constituencies that are also very important. And the timing
It was your plan until February 15th.
So if we were in a situation where there was something that we were working on that could really change what we would want to say, and needed to have that clarified before we were positioned to take a vote, I would be arguing for that. But what I see instead is that we're in a situation where we need to have decisive conversations with all of our constituencies, including those that aren't necessarily in the room here, and they need to know which way the organization is going. Lack of clarity about that is a decision in itself that is registered.
And I think if we move forward with that, and like I said, if this is a decision, then I will vote accordingly. I think what I ask then of the board and of myself and of us as a collective then is to be very clear and taking accountability for that lack of communication there. I think and again, I feel like there's either I'm speaking a different language up here or something, but again, the issue is not that I want to delay a decision that is gonna allow families to move forward. I think it's an acknowledgement and creating space for people to be able to share, even if it's pain, right? Because that builds relationships with one another, and obviously we haven't been doing enough, and I take part in that, right, as a board member. And so I'm trying to figure out a way that even in this moment, right, we can, when we know better, we do better, and so I think I'm trying so hard to push and see where there is space to show that we're willing to give a little bit, or we're willing to meet people halfway, so that they so that they know we care. I think that's it's enough to say it, but I'm trying to see it I'm trying to navigate this boundary of the tables or whatever. But I think that's what I'm asking, and again, I'm not trying to delay a decision. The families deserve clarity. Everyone deserves clarity. I think I wouldn't be doing my job as a board member, I think, by not also advocating for what I think is best for the relationship building. as you all are advocating for what you know best, and that seems to be fiduciary responsibilities and those kinds of things. Not that you don't know about relationship building, but that's what I feel like most called to in this moment, in my skill set at this time in my life. So I think that's where I'm coming from, not to us.
Should, Jose?
Yeah, I have a question, and just, earlier, I understood and interpreted both of your comments, definitely not as not wanting to make hard decisions, but wanting to have more of a timeline for listening, and feedback. Because I've served with you on these boards, and I know you're very capable of making, having decisive moments and speaking up. It was my understanding that there was a town hall before this too, right? And there was, hearing some laughter from the crowd.
No.
What other opportunities for feedback, maybe, I'm not gonna be asking the question, but what other opportunities for feedback has there been prior to this, and how many of them have been public spaces?
So we had the, sorry, I have to pull this up for dates. We had our first town hall February 5th. That was at Alum Rock Middle School. And then it was followed by a cafecito at Alum Rock High School February 9th, really with the high school parents. There are continued cafecitos. So I think what's important is we don't make a decision and then, I think, Eileen, your focus on culture and community building, that's going to have to be a continued effort. Regardless of whether making a decision tonight or delaying it for a week or a month, I think that regardless of the decision, and the decision is imminent, there's no other way, there's no new information, as Darcie shared, that there's a lot of work to do around culture building, around community building, around thinking about what this organization looks like moving forward. So officially those dates, and there are continued conversations that are planned as well for Cafecito at Alum Rock, as well as the other dates around resources to all of our constituents. I feel families and students absolutely important, but our staff as well, right? We have to give them resources that they need.
Although I agree with all of those points about moving forward probably will help people make decisions, I also have been involved in one school closing where the information wasn't well shared with the community for a long enough period of time that people really understood what was happening. And this is in another context, a different school, but it was an elementary school in that case. And all I have observed over, this is maybe like 15 years later, there's still animosity going on in the community. So personally, having lived through that, I would recommend that we think about a time period, and maybe it's a week, and maybe it's a month. It's not more than a month, and I don't think the decision will be different either way. I think we would make the same decision tonight as we will make in a week or a month. But I also think that sometimes having the ability for people to process what's happening is useful in a way that we might think about.
Can I get clarity? So are we only allowed to have one board meeting a month?
We can have special board meetings, right? We have to have quorum, and so there's an opportunity to make sure that we can have quorum as a board, 7 board members. We, as you well know, have opportunity in that arena. We missed one. Yep. So, you know, and again, I hear you when it comes to time, and the time will start today, or if you start it in a month. Look how time is now, right? The healing, no matter whether you make that decision in to make a decision now or in 24 hours or a week, and with the same mindset that could be the same decision, also, I think, can continue to divide a community rather than with a decision that the board makes that we can now act on and move the community forward. And it's going to be painful, whether that decision is made a week from today or a month from today or today. It's a painful decision. And for as many people are in this room, there are many different feelings, and each feeling valid, each feeling right. But to postpone and schedule another day where we feel like we could get quorum and then life happens, that's a possibility. Or to wait for the next board meeting, which is really the end of March, which is April, going into spring break. So, you know, it's time too. So, you know, you think of that time as well. There's a week lost after a decision is made, because we won't have, I won't have a full staff capacity to work on the things that need to be worked on. So I'm asking that, or saying basically that we're going to have to, at whatever point this decision is made, community building and relationship building will have to be something that we continue to do.
Start to do.
Start with
that community building, right? Sorry, I don't want to go into too much longer. I just feel bad talking so much. All of what's been said, I think, is important. I just wanted to kind of share what I'm thinking. I might lose track of exactly what, but I think what concert was important. We have a big responsibility in the financial aspect, in the behind the scenes things, for lack of a better word, regarding the entire organization, according to school. And Con mentioned a big commitment to that side of things. And I feel that, while I think that's very important, I also feel that the commitment that we have to the community is just as, if not more important. And I think, and I don't want to seem like I'm pushing anything on anyone. I don't want to be like that. But I just think that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Regarding the delaying of a decision, whatever it may be, I guess, would it be too much to ask for that to happen? Because I think that while it's important that we speak to everybody who's involved, the county, stakeholders and everything, I think it's also important to at least validate in some sense the commitment that we've made to the community in terms of when we're going to make this decision. Again, that's just what I'm thinking.
Do you have a suggestion
for delay? Well, I mean, I'm pretty next. I think, whatever we could make quorum, I think just like an appropriate amount of time for everybody to discuss, because I also felt a little surprised by this. I think I would have wanted I would have wanted to maybe write something out regarding my thoughts about this entire situation. That's just me. But thoughts.
Yeah.
So, a week? I'm
just
trying to get at what you're thinking.
Well, yeah, what I'm thinking, I mean, a week.
I think there has to be some meeting in the middle. I think we communicated one thing, obviously the decision, well, it sounds like most people are in agreement that the decision is gonna be the same. I think it's just, again, it's to your point about having to continue to do this culture and community work. We can't do that alone. And so to me, and unless maybe somebody is gonna, can bring to me, I guess, maybe a different perspective that will shift this, but the week that will pass, let's say a week being a compromise, right? I'm not saying wait the whole month, but at least some space so that there can be notification of, people have the opportunity to come speak again. But a week's time that allows for us to, again, rebuild trust and to show good faith forward. And I just, I don't see, I think there's, for me, and again, I think this is why I was put on this board, right, is not to be the fiduciary person to some degree. I know that is my responsibility and I'm trying my best, and also I'm not hearing a good enough, maybe fiduciary reason in which a week's time and the amount of trust that would rebuild that we know we are going to need, right? We're gonna need the community to come and support us, and we're gonna need to work together to co-design a way forward. I would just, I guess, much rather do that in a world in which we maybe took a step forward in that right direction versus knowingly saying that we have to make this decision tonight and what is gonna change in 1 week. To the point about.
I think really, you just what happens when we have the same information but we just have different analysis, and then things get very different perhaps, right? I think that's what's happening. You've got information and you are interpreting a week, a month as what you just described. I interpret it as something else because I think it will create more harm. But I think that's the whole process here, right? The process is that someone will now make a proposal and then we will vote. And then either, the proposal would be to come back in a week or come back in the time when we have quorum, right? Because if we can't establish quorum, then it's going to be more time, right? So that's one option. And the other option is just someone to make another proposal and then we vote, right? That's it. Because I feel like I'm being bullied or being put into a corner now because my conclusion is not your conclusion, right? But this is our role. So I kind of feel.
That's a fair statement, but there's obviously a couple different viewpoints, so I like the idea of putting up to vote of should we postpone it for a week, approximately 1 week, contingent upon a quorum.
And
As for clarification, do we have to do this in person?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
All board meetings must be in
So
person.
we will have to come back
Yes.
in person
Yes.
tonight to make the vote. Yes.
Yeah, and Con, I value your perspective
absolutely.
wholeheartedly. I think part of me asking questions is also me exploring the space allowed, right? Because I think to your point, yeah, my perspective is garnered by, and will probably mostly always be what the community is, what I'm hearing, which I can't help but hear in this space is, I think what's gonna move me forward, and I think your perspective is incredibly valuable, and so, one, I'm gonna publicly apologize for any sort of outcome that would relate into you feeling bullied into a corner, and also I think this is just me exercising what I view as my own right as a board member to explore every possibility, I think, before having to vote on something that is that makes me sick. And so I think
we've
that's
been sick about this before.
Okay, so we
What
have.
about us?
We
Can I make a
haven't.
motion, Maria?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, I make a motion that we postpone the action to next week for a date that Tuesday or later of next week where we can get a quorum, and that a communication goes out to the same group that was originally told that action was gonna be made in March, and letting them know that the action will be made on this new date.
Okay.
Can you use the words vote?
Okay, so,
Can you do that?
I didn't even, that was, I didn't write down everything that you just said, but
Motion is that
to
we
postpone the vote of
postpone
reduction.
postpone the action vote until next week, sometime next week, Tuesday or later, when we can get a quorum.
Could we say no later than like March 1?
That's fine.
Quorum?
Yeah.
March 1 is fine.
Yeah, we're.
March 1 is Friday.
And then a new communication
This
goes out
Friday.
to stakeholders.
It will be a public meeting.
All our meetings are public. And
So March 8th, and then a new.
March 8th, that's March 8th.
I think that's next
So
Friday.
March 8th,
March 1.
first, I just let the board know that March 8th, the SIB, the second interim budget is due to San Jose Unified.
Well, it's just, okay, let me revise the motion. We move it till next week, same time, same place, contingent upon a quorum. And that a new communication goes out tomorrow to the same stakeholders. Originally, we're told that the action would be anticipated in March, and let them know the new date for the action.
Use the word vote.
Let me repeat it, please. So, a new motion to postpone the vote of reduction in grades at DCP Alum Rock Charter to no later than March 15th, which would be a special board meeting. March 5th,
No, I'm saying just do it by Tuesday of next week.
which is March 5th.
Okay, just do it on that date.
So for that
Right.
motion to make sense, can we establish that all of us can be there to
Well, that's
establish
gonna be the challenge. So
Are we-
right now,
Are we in the
we're-
discussion, because there was a second, so we can have some discussion now?
I think to the point about like the whole kind of being like, again, remember like, and again, I'm gonna be that person, so the action, I'm gonna be that person. Senses of urgency are a function of white supremacy, right? So we could just like, just slow down and like talk and just get to a place of, like, this is not, yeah, let's like, so can we, to next Tuesday's point, are we going to be there? I guess would be the question at the same time.
Okay, not all board members are here either.
But at least quorum, right? Like, if we can see if we can establish quorum. I think that would change my vote. I mean, there's, at the same time, if we can't be quorum, then, and if only so many of us are even willing to be here in a week, I think that's also.
Okay, so I just kind of want, let's get this motion tied up, because we still have closed session. Okay. So, are you available?
I have a conflict, I can
Okay.
try and move it, but I can't commit
Julia?
to now.
I'm checking out of a flight, but let me see if I can move the
Cuitlahuac?
flight.
Darcie? Kathryn? So we don't have quorum.
So if we shifted the time down, so then I think to that point, like, I don't know if I can.
I mean, there's other board members, right? I mean, to consider, they're just not here. So part of the, now that we're in some discussion of the motion, part of the issue with not making a motion that has a specific date is that we're tying ourselves to a timeline that we don't know necessarily that we can meet. It would be much better if we could, with some board members not being here. I have to be honest, like next week's kind of tough for me, because I'm overnight and I'm doing a fellowship. Or multiple days. But I would encourage us maybe to think about a motion or adjusting the motion to include a specific date versus a two, because you run into like, what if for whatever reason we leave here and that's not possible, and then like you've made a motion and so, me saying that knowing I can't be there, but y'all should figure out how to how to find a date, I think.
What would be a time of which?
Well, you might want to vote up or down the motion.
The motion is to delay.
The motion is to postpone the vote of reduction in grades at DCP Alum Rock Charter for 1 week.
And to send out a new communication saying that that's the date that a decision would be made. Because otherwise we'd have the same issue a week from now. We'd have to, the stakeholders aren't aware of it.
Okay, so let me repeat this one more time. Motion to postpone the vote of reduction in grades at DCP Alum Rock Charter for 1 week and send new communication of the new date for the decision to be voted upon.
Second.
And, okay, so that motion was made by Mark, and it was seconded by Con.
It was seconded by Kathryn earlier. This is a
I'm sorry,
substitute
who
motion, or
seconded?
is this-
I seconded it.
Kathryn. Kathryn, you second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now we will vote. I vote yes. Fazel?
I vote no.
Kathy Gates?
No.
Darcie Green?
And I won't be able to be there, so, no.
I'm sorry, Maria, are we voting on?
On the revised motion to delay the vote of the petition to next week. So, Darcie, what was your vote?
I'm gonna vote no, I can't even be there, so I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. Kathryn Hansen?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Raylene?
Yes.
Cuitlahuac?
Yes.
Benoit? Oh, okay, so I guess that's majority. So, Con was a no, Kathy was a no. Were the other?
Darcie was in.
Darcie was a no. Okay, so, so majority is to delay 1 week. Okay.
Can we now try and find a date?
No, I thought
Is it this
I thought the motion was for
It
next
was
Tuesday.
for Tuesday, 1 week from
Well,
today.
that's not how the motion was stated. But
Yeah, I
we
thought
know
it was
Tuesday-
We said within 1 week.
Within a week.
So we find daytime.
No, it was delayed
To delay
1 week. So that means we can't do it less than a week. Like, we can't do it the 3rd or the 4th or the 2nd or the 1st.
Oh, my
We have to
understanding that
go-
it was a week from now, like it was
Yeah,
Tuesday.
I mean, through the discussion and what Darcie pointed out, my understanding was gonna be same time, same place next Tuesday.
Well, we can ask the maker of the motion, what was your intent?
Can't get a quorum.
We don't have quorum yet.
That's
Well, we don't,
That's
you don't
what-
know you have.
Right, so can we now
How many,
try and
how many
find-
other board members do we have? They're not here?
So we're missing
Yeah,
two.
you might have, you might end up with quorum.
How many?
But- Yeah, okay, so likely.
We may want to reframe the motion so that it allows
Us to find it.
something to go out to all of the board members, committee to us, you know, saying which of these dates can we, and times can we be there, so that we actually know ahead of time that we're gonna have a quorum.
That was my original
I'm not gonna,
recommendation.
I won't make a motion, but I can offer one you may wanna consider, but I'm not gonna make a motion. You might wanna consider directing staff to work with board members to find a time, potentially if it's the will of the board to delay the vote. Which gives some power to the staff to poll board members outside of this board meeting, because you may, I don't know if there's any trick to that, because there are some board members who didn't vote on the delay, but, folks who are more well-versed in the legalities of our voting might know. But you could decide outside of the board meeting if you wanted to, and by asking staff to find a time. And in that case, you could do like a not to exceed this date, but you could not find quorum between the board members between that date. So it is tough, but you could direct staff to find a time.
My concern is that March 8th is a very important date to have a decision. And we've already said that it's gotta be beyond March 5th, so we've got basically 2 days to work with. The 6th or the 7th.
It may be a silly question. Why couldn't we, in discussion, find a date and time that worked for 7 people minimum, and then make a motion? Like, is that not the way it goes?
They can't count on it until first.
Is that okay?
So in discussion,
I mean, I think it's very important for me that we meet the March 8th deadline,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's critical. And I voted no because I'm traveling the 6th and the 7th, so can't be here in person. And that's why I thought the motion that I voted on was that same place, same time next week, March 5th at 4:30.
So the 5th, you said you're in town?
The 5th, I'm in town, but
How about
I
4th?
am in San Francisco until 7.
Monday, March 4th.
Monday, March 4th. Yeah, Monday, March 4th.
Maybe, yeah, look at Monday, March 4th. Kathy, what was your, did you have a travel conflict or something? Or,
Well, we just voted to postpone it for a week.
We're gonna have to make another motion to cancel it and then make another motion for.
was the week
In the interest of trying to be.
No, but, why-
Adhere to our language, we just said we would wait a week. But now I guess we're saying we can't wait a week, right? So we have to not wait.
well, I know my point earlier had said like whether it be a day or a week or however many, I think it was just more so, at least what I was hearing was like spaciousness to be able to have a chance for staff to communicate to a community that we're doing this.
So the request that we, Kathy, is the, I'm sorry, may I jump in, Madam Chair? Okay. Is the request that we have the vote before the 8th? Like that there is some direction, preferably probably by the.
Before close of business on the 7th.
I was gonna say, probably by the 7th,
Yeah.
I would imagine, that's probably even like stressful.
Right.
But, so then you all would need to, I keep saying you all because I have not a lot of availability next week because of this fellowship. But you would probably then, you may want to, like find a day between Monday and Thursday that works for folks, given, what's today, today's Tuesday? And for posting purposes and for the spirit of why you're doing it, you don't want to do it this week probably, because then you're just giving people like a couple of days. You probably need to find between Monday and Thursday. Oh, you would actually probably like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday is probably what you're looking at. I would think.
What about Monday the 4th then, that evening? Can we maybe raise a hand if Monday the 4th evening works? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Solid.
Does it work for you?
I mean, you may get quorum from the board members who aren't. How many board members are not here?
Two.
So we have 6 people that say that Monday the 4th works with 1 maybe.
No, I know, I was like, I just wanted to stay on. I can vote for it.
Could we maybe settle on 2 dates? No, you can't with a motion.
I would try to pick one date, I mean, you could do, really, you can make whatever motion you would like. I don't mean to, but I think your best bet, given the turnaround, is to try to find like a date. You can poll right now both dates and see what you have more people on, and then make a hope for the other board member.
So it sounds like on the 4th, we have 6 yeses, 1 maybe.
What, can we get down to the time of day, because I could make it flexible.
What time works for you?
Before 6, if we're done before 6:30.
It would just be a special board meeting, it would be just a special board meeting to have this specific decision, correct?
Just one topic.
But then we would have to, but then it would be the same, Zoom comments, public comment piece as well. I think that's maybe the only, the part that feels unknown to me. Maybe I'm asking for support and getting to a resolution together. Yeah.
Well,
For picking a date, because if we have to be done by 6:30, let's say we start at 4:30.
Well, you can maybe get a quorum without me, I mean, but that's my time constraint, is I've got to, be somewhere else at 7.
my schedule went open.
Yeah, I will.
Okay,
I'll meet
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah.
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. March 4th, 4 o'clock. It'll be a special board meeting. Okay?
March 6th or so.
So, if I could reserve the room, March 4th, 12 o'clock.
Because then that gives us 2.5 hours. There's nothing on this plan.
So there will be no other presentation?
No.
So it'll just be board action.
So I may be a few minutes late and I mean, we can probably do it back
If anything changes for me, I will definitely.
my own work.
Processes.
Okay. So I'm going to restate the motion to, do we need to put the date there?
We have to have another motion
We have
to
to have
cancel
another.
that previous motion, because it was really not.
I'll motion to cancel the previous motion.
Second. Okay, I vote yes. Cameruso?
Yes.
Kathy Yates? Yes. Darcie Green? Yes. Kathryn Hansen? Yes. Mark Hensel?
Yes.
Raylene Hernandez? Yes. Cuitlahuac Ramirez?
Yes.
Julian Pesca?
Yes.
We need a vote to call a special meeting?
Now we need a
Now we need
Okay,
to,
so
Now we need a motion.
we call special board meeting for March 4th.
Together with the revised communication to go out to stakeholders.
I accept that friendly amendment.
so Kathy, you motion, who's second? Darcie? Darcie.
Thank you earlier, but I think you wrote this together.
Thank you, Darcie. Yeah, okay, I vote yes. Cameruso?
Yes.
Kathy Yates?
Yes.
Darcie Green?
Yes.
Kathryn Hansen?
Yes.
Mark Hensel?
Yes.
Raylene Hernandez?
Yes.
Cuitlahuac Ramirez? Julian Pesca?
Yes.
Okay. We got that. Now, okay, now we will prepare for closed session. Closed session is board members only. Thank you, guests, for joining.
Thank you, alumni.